Okay, so we are now recording. We are starting the meeting and welcome all. So I'd like to start. We're going to get started pretty quick. I don't know, Sandeep, how long you're going to be able to stay on. So I wanted to make sure we give you as much time as possible.
Sure, I can start in next few minutes. Do you want to wait for people, or we should start?
No, I think we should go ahead and get started. And let me just take 2 minutes to make a couple of introductions, and then we'll go ahead and get started with you.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, so do we have any new people today? Anybody new joining us today? Well, I take that to be a no.
Hey,
So,
hi.
hi,
How
who
can I help?
who is that?
Hi, Steve. I'm sorry, I'm having some difficulties with my camera, but my name's Nubia, and I'm the ACP administrator with Chicanos por la Causa.
Great. So maybe a little bit later, Nubia, we can. I thought that was that you were with CLPC. So maybe a little later you can give us a little update on what's happening with you guys and the ACP initiative.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And we also have Eric on the line. Hey, Steve, it's me, Lupe.
Hey,
We'll
Lupe.
fix our camera right now.
Okay. Well, we'll get to you in a little bit, but I do want to make sure we give Sandeep plenty of time. And I did get a note from Derek. Unfortunately, he had planned to be here today, but he's traveling, and his travel didn't go exactly as he planned. So unfortunately, he won't be here today. And Janet and Mala are also traveling today, so they won't be here either. But we're going to charge ahead anyway. So with that, Sandeep, why don't I just turn it over to you? I want to, I think most of you probably know Sandeep or know of Sandeep, who is our broadband manager with the Arizona Commerce Authority. And he has just been doing a yeoman's job in trying to get all of our grants and everything and all of our funding in place. And of course, obviously a great congratulations, Sandeep, for the almost $1 billion of broadband money that's going to be coming to the state. And I know that has a lot to do with the work that you and your team did. And so that's greatly appreciated. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to you. And Karen, obviously, and those of you who don't know Karen Ziegler, Karen's been a long time partner with us, is with Ziegler Consulting, but is also working with the state. And so Karen, feel free to join in as you feel desired. And with that, Sandy, I'm just going to turn it over to you and let you do your thing.
Thank you, Steve. Steve, is there any way to share my screen?
Absolutely. Now you can share. I just stopped sharing.
Okay.
I don't know if you want to turn your camera on or not, Sandy, if that's desirable or not, but that's up to you.
No, I'm going to just need to figure out the
Okay.
sharing part.
So Sandeep, well, as I was mentioning, really appreciate all the work that you've done. I know it's been a huge task for you, and you've done a great job. So thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Steve. Hi, everyone. My name is Sandy Bomik. I hope you can all see my screen. I will update you all today about Arizona Commerce Authority's broadband initiatives, what currently we're working on and where we are in the process. Just want to put a disclaimer, the number you will be seeing in the screen today, not still 100% accurate. It's a tentative number. We'll have better updates in future. Having saying that, I'll start my presentation and we'll go from there. So I would like to start with the ABDG grant. So Last year, state of Arizona received $190 million from U.S. Treasury for the CPF infrastructure, and $100 million was allocated for broadband expansion. So we have invested $100 million in 14 rural and 6 urban projects, and we're able to draw $112 million in local matching funding. And it was a statewide deployment in unserved and underserved area. Let's take a quick look what exactly would be the outcome of this program. So 82 proposals were received from across the state, 67 from rural counties and 15 from urban. We considered Maricopa and Pima County, which is most populous and mostly covered county when it comes to broadband infrastructure, as urban. And 20 projects were recommended by the multi-agency evaluation committee for funding. So this whole ABDG allocated $75.7 million to 14 awardees in rural counties and $23.6 million to 6 awardees in urban counties, which opened up almost $113 million in local matching fund. So, so the projected outcome for this project would be total investment would be $213 million, and total mile of fiber or coax line deployed will be 3,300 miles, and that includes 4 middle mile projects and 16 last mile projects, and 73 communities will be served. Total population served will be almost half a million, and total number of the household would be served at least 100,000 households. 22,000 businesses will be served out of this project, and 734 anchor institute will be connected with 1 gig symmetrical speed. Now, these are the tentative number from the proposals we have received. The number of households, number of miles can change, but we don't expect to see a dramatic change in the outcomes. As part of this compliance process, we have submitted our application last year, September, after going through back and forth with U.S. Treasury and justifying all the projects we are intending to fund. We got approval in February, fulfilled all the requirement with U.S. Treasury, and just started sending out all the contracts to our subrecipients. Some of the contracts are coming back to us, signed and ready for execution. So in next few months, you will start seeing this project getting rolled into your communities. And there are 24 months with an option of 6-month extension to complete this project. So this would be the first major investment in the state when it comes to broadband investing. We did one more investment in broadband a few years ago, and that was in 2019, and that was for $3 million. So this is definitely significant. Let's talk about the Arizona State Middle Mile Broadband Network. So a few years ago, ACA and ADOT took a hard look into our state middle mile and our privately owned middle mile, and we did not have enough middle mile to cover the BEAD funding. So we went through a feasibility study and the legislation process last year, and we had by going through the legislation, we established a statute which allows us, or ADOT, to deploy state middle mile network in ADOT right of way. So all the intrastate state highways are eligible for middle mile deployment. As part of that effort, Arizona Department of Transportation and ACA identified few highly crucial routes which need dire middle mile connection, and then categorized each category into different parts. So on left side, if you can see, you will see which are the top priority, then priority, high priority state routes, and the additional routes. So following the feasibility study, we started working on deploying middle mile fiber on I-17, I-19, and I-40 West. So where we are in this process, currently on I-17, which is Phoenix to Flagstaff, construction was completed in June 2023. We are going through some stress testing and network testing, and we have invested total $44 million in that project. On I-19, which is Tucson to Nogales, construction was completed in June 23, and investment is $21 million. Again, we are running some testing before we hand it to OMC vendor. and I-40 West, which is Flagstaff to California. An investment of $74 million was announced in February. Construction is expected to, actually, there are some wrong information, typo in this PowerPoint. Construction will start end of this year and expected to finish in early 2025. Where we are in this process. So, of course, ADOT or ACA, we are going through this process to select a OMC vendor who will be managing this network for next 25 to 30 years. Arizona Department of Transportation and Sun Corridor Network is ACA's primary state partner in this initiative. ACA and Arizona Department of Transportation will execute an IGA, which will establish governance to expand this funding, whatever revenue will be earning from this middle mile network, and decide that how this money will be well spent in future when expanding other middle mile network in state routes and everything. So basically, this money or revenue which will be earning from this network will go to a state smart highway transportation fund, and we will be using this money to expand our middle mile network. We are in process of selecting an OMC vendor. Last year, we put out an RFP, and we received multiple applications or proposal. We went through an evaluation process, and we just kicked off the negotiation process with one of the organization out of that proposal. It's an active procurement, so I cannot make any more comment about it, but we are hoping to finalize a contract with that OMC vendor in next 1.5 to 2 months, and hoping to get this middle mile going before even we kick off the BEAD funding. Next, we'll talk about BEAD. As you all know, state of Arizona received almost $943 million from BEAD funding. So here is a quick snapshot. $100 million was a minimum allocation from federal government or NTIA. And then for the high cost areas, we have received $223 million. And remaining allocation, which is an average deployment cost for every single household, we received $673 million. So the total is 994 approximately. And if we get the 25% matching, which is expected or as per the NOFO, that would be another $235 million. And the total capital will be invested in BEAD would be $1.25 billion. Now, on your left side, if you look at the underserved BSL, that is 141,000. So far here in Arizona is still lack high-speed broadband connection, less than 100 and less than 100 download and 20 upload, and underserved BSL, which has less than 25 download and 3 upload. This underserved number was the main driving factor, which determined how much money states are getting, not the unserved. So we have total BEAD eligible areas approximately 297,000 addresses. However, there are still addresses missing in the maps, and we are working diligently with the local partners, ISPs, nonprofit organization to submit those as part of the map improving process. I just want to note one thing, that any address we submit in this process after this date or after the allocation will not be considered into the funding process. It's just to make sure that we are not leaving behind any addresses in any community from the high-speed broadband deployment. Let's take a look at the timeline. So last year we received the initial planning fund, and we are right now in July. Our 5-year action plan is due in August 27th. And after that, the major deadline which is coming is initial plan, which is due in December. After the initial plan, once we submit the initial plan, we can open up the challenge process. The challenge process is basically allowing the state, the local government, nonprofit organizations to challenge the state on the availability of the broadband coverage. So if you are in a community which marked as served into the FCC broadband map, but you know that's not the situation, you can definitely submit a challenge to the state. It's pretty unique because Arizona Commerce Authority or state will basically prepare the local government, nonprofit organization, or a service provider to make sure they can submit a successful challenge and we can open up those areas for BEAD funding. But it will be submitted to us so that we can make a decision. And any carriers, if they have submitted information that certain areas will be covered more than 100/20, but that's not the case in real life, we will be considering few sets of speed test data, direct feedback from the community to make sure that we are opening up those areas for broadband or BEAD funding. We actually identified few of the issues, especially when it comes to fixed wireless. The data which was submitted is a little bit questionable. So we are going through a process to reach out to both the community and working with County Supervisors Association and both leagues of cities to make sure that we are reaching out to the carriers, as well as they are submitting a challenge process to make sure that those areas are not wrongfully being taken off or blocked from the BEAD funding. So that challenge process and all the financial analytics, that how much money we'll be spending in each and every
super important.
how much money we'll be spending for every BSL in every single county will be done beginning of next year. And once the initial plan, which will be submitted this December, get approved, 20% of the funding will be released. Now, this 20% as per NTIA, that's the best case scenario. It can be 12%, it can be 15% based on the state's need. And at that point, we'll be able to roll out some of those grants. At the end of 2024 or beginning of 2025, we'll be submitting a final plan. And once the whole final plan is submitted and approved, the rest of the funding will be released for grants. So as you can see, it's a long, lengthy process of planning the whole thing before even we sent out the money for infrastructure deployment. So we'll start seeing the whole money start rolling out in 2025, but in 2024 we will have the both activities. Probably some of the funding will be out there to build, and also we will document the final plan or draft the final plan and publish it for public review and public comments. Having saying that, I would like to move forward onto our last topic, which is digital equity. State currently is going through a digital equity planning. We have received the planning money from NTIA last year. The due date for digital equity draft and submission is September 30th. However, I want to aware everyone in this call, a lot of you are directly engaged with the digital equity activities in state level, and we are applying. Mostly, a lot of the states are applying for an extension, and we're going through the same process, which will mostly put us into end of this year deadline. So we'll be submitting a plan at the end of this year. However, we are hoping to publish a draft report beginning of November or end of October, which will be open for 1 month for everyone's comment, feedback. And we'll take those comment and feedback, integrate that in as part of the plan, and we'll submit the final copy to NTIA in 2020, end of this year, December. After that, there would be a gap period, and NTIA will release the guideline to apply for the capacity grant. State of Arizona will submit an application, receive the capacity grant, and the capacity grant will be distributed between different projects, plans, digital equity related initiative, telemedicine, workforce, anything related to digital equity. That will be the capacity grant will be granted to different organizations, state, local government, Department of Education, library, nonprofit organizations, to make sure that Arizona is bridging those gaps in digital equity. So that's the quick overview we have. I would be happy to take any questions from now on. Thank you so much for this opportunity, Steve. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Sandy. Really appreciate you being here. I know you're overwhelmed, and so we really appreciate the time to be here today. So questions or comments for Sandy?
When you talk about underserved and unserved locations, are you including small businesses in that, or is it all households?
Those are residentials.
It's all residential. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And do you have a breakout of how much is tribal versus non-tribal?
No, we don't.
Okay.
I have a quick, I had a quick question on
Yes.
when you talk digital inclusion and then you
Mhm.
talk the overall award, right? The
Mhm.
900. Is the digital inclusion component funded by the overall award, or is this two separate funding source opportunities that just happen to be taking place at the same time?
Great question, Lucy. No, it would be a separate funding. So that $993 million, the eligible spending from that money would be mostly infrastructure deployment, which is broadband deployment. Some of the 5% of that cost will go towards the consultant, state broadband office, providing technical assistance to our community members, counties, cities, states, everything else. And some of the money we are planning to spend on the workforce development. So workforce development is, as part of the broadband deployment, is an allowable cost. Now, State of Arizona will receive a different set of funding from NTIA to deploy, basically to deploy digital equity related projects. So that would be completely separate. Once we submit the plan at the end of this year, and NTIA release the guideline to apply for that capacity grant, we will know how much money State of Arizona will receive. So this would be a two different set of funding.
I got a short one, Steve.
Go ahead, Vaughn.
Real quick, when you run those broadband lines like you got on the map from Tucson to Nogales, what happens to the other communities in between, like Green Valley and do they get a connection off branch?
Yes.
Do they? Okay.
Great question, Vaughn. So if you drive on I-17 or I-19, you will see that on the left side, I think on I-17, it's on south side, and I think I-19 is the same case. You will see on the left side, there's a junction box in every single 3 miles. So all the we wanted to make sure that these junction boxes are open and communities have a really easy access to this middle mile network.
Okay, thank you.
Sandeep, I think I heard somewhere along the way that we thought that almost every community was within 5 miles of those interstates. Is that still a correct assumption?
Yes. So, well, there is when we went through the feasibility study, we found out that 95% of Arizona's population lives within 5 miles of the interstate and state highway network. Now, what we are deploying right now is a small piece of what proposed so far. It's just like 3 interstate route, which was on mostly in dire condition. So we'll be expanding our network, but we have to wait on that. But I cannot say for sure that 95% of Arizona population will be served. So we'll be leveraging both private middle mile invested by private companies, and also state middle mile network in this process to support BEAD.
Okay.
Sandeep, this is John. I saw on the chart, it was in purple, the route on State Road 69 from 17 up towards Prescott. What did purple mean?
So we just created some priority based on how many households we have right next to that. So let me take a step back, John. When the legislation was passed, basically, this is not a ADOT smart highway project, or this is not a project to connect superscalers here in the state. This is a project to identify how many households we have right next to that interstate highway or state highway, how many people are living there, and how many people are without the internet. So based on the number, we set a priority. So probably interstate, you just mentioned, has less amount of people living right next to it. So we set a priority based on that. That doesn't mean none of them are important. Some of the state highways are left alone because it's getting built by private entities and will be hopping into their network to connect the last mile or BEAD deployment.
And Sandeep, Mark Goldstein. So
Yes, sir.
it would be the case that in proposing a last mile project for a community, you can include the middle mile extension to the highways. The stubs, in other words, might be 5 or 15 or 50 miles, but though the BEAD grants will focus on last mile, they will enable funding of stubs to reach communities, correct?
Yes. So Yes and yes. Nicole is here, my colleague from NTIA. She would be able to emphasize this more. But I would tell you this, like the amount of households we have here in the state. Once we submit the initial plan, we will be going through a financial analytics, which we are doing right now anyway. Basically, that will our ultimate target is to deploy a state broadband map with this with this financial number, so that every community knows that how much money they will be needing to deploy high-speed broadband into their community. So that includes both fixed wireless, that include both fiber to home, also satellite. So the way NTIA deployed, or NTIA gave us this fund, they categorized the whole fund into two categories, which is high cost and regular average cost. We are thinking of categorizing this funding into three different categories: average cost, high cost, and extremely high cost. The extremely high cost areas are going to be a great place for wireless or satellite application. Of course, we are leaning towards more on the licensed wireless, but extremely or high cost and average cost areas, we are hoping to deploy fiber to home. Now, in this process, if we see that Arizona really needs a lot of middle mile to cover these areas, we will start tapping into our private investment. So there are areas in Arizona where multiple ISPs are interested. So that 25% threshold match will definitely go up in those areas if there are more competition. And we'll basically take that money and invest in an area where, Mark, you just used that as an example, that probably need a 50 mile of middle mile fiber. So it's all about, look, this money is not sufficient to cover all the household with fiber to home, but we'll try to maximize our private investment in this whole process to make sure that we are covering as many households as possible with fiber to home. So to answer your question, Mark, yes, we will try our best, but where it's not possible or financially does not make sense, probably we will go ahead and do wireless or some kind of other technologies.
Thank you.
JT. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go on, JT.
Yes, okay, so two quick questions. Number one is, at the junction boxes that you mentioned the possibility of fiber access, and you did mention wireless access. So are those boxes right now equipped to take fiber and or wireless, or is it just a break in the fiber where you could insert those types of technologies?
No, it's completely, the construction was done in a way that it's operational from day one.
Okay, and then the second question is a larger picture question, and that is, with the middle mile project, are there plans to ensure that across the entire middle mile and all of the last mile stuff that's going on with BEAD and NTIA and digital equity, that there is a plan for making sure all of that is connected for purposes of, for example, disaster recovery, fire, flood, blizzard, dust storm, public safety, and those sorts of things? So that there's an interconnection between the networks, so that if something happens in one part of the state, they don't lose their connectivity because they are not connected to a middle mile resource.
Jerry, that's a great question. I wish I had a very concrete answer. That's not something we're in a luxury right now or have funding to secure. But we are working with our private partners to make sure that we're covering as much redundancy as possible. I know this is not probably a satisfactory answer, more of political answer or futuristic answer, but that's all I have right now.
You have a map, Sandeep, of the private sector middle mile fiber deployment that shows you where the gaps are? And
we do have a map, but unfortunately it's a paid version. We pay for it, and the middle mile provider, private investor, they don't want to make this thing too public. We will only put in the state broadband map, which is allowed by entities or allowed by Arizona Department of Transportation as a public network, but everything else is basically right now is a licensed use.
Hey, any other questions for Sandy?
I guess the last question I would have is on a scale of 1 to 10, and 10 being like you're at a position where you got everything you need, meaning your systems are set to manage and disperse and, you know, even enrich with geospatial mapping. So do you feel like you have everything you need to deploy this successfully, or is there still opportunity for, you know, partner vendors, tech companies to come in and say, hey, listen, this is how we may be able to help your life in the next 2. Did we miss that opportunity, or is that still open for you?
No, Lucy, that's a great question. So whatever we have, I'm learning every single day. Like there is a reason this whole process is almost 2 years. We started this last year, and we are learning every single day. Every single day, I'm getting emails from somewhere that you missed this address, or this fixed wireless provider is claiming this is speed, but basically it's not meeting the threshold, right? So we are developing ideas in our head, of course, in compliance with NTIA every single day. So this is a continuous process. It's basically, I call it flying the plane at the same time and building the plane at the same time. So we would love to have any feedback from your end. As far as we are going through this whole planning process until next 1.5 years, it would be great to hear your voice, what you want to see in this process. There will be surveys out there which you can take, provide your feedback. If you are an organization who's providing digital equity related service, we would like to add you into our digital equity asset list. Apparently, state of Arizona has a lot of digital equity program and a lot of cool program we are running. So my vision as a state broadband director, why do you even like worried about this? There are a lot of projects we can ultimately fund, basically take them as an asset inventory, and once the capacity is available, we can fund those projects and you can expand your program, the telemedicine, distance learning, anything you are doing. So we'd love to have your feedback. And as far as we are into the planning process, I think everyone has some kind of opportunity to provide input and participate into this process. So I will post my email address. Feel free to reach out.
Thank you so much. Yeah, great.
Anything else for Sandy? So Sandy, before we move on, do you want to just quickly, you've got a couple of your folks and we want to certainly hear from them that are on your team here. I know Karen's here and Cindy's here. Do you want to just introduce them real quickly? And many of you, I think, already know them, but I think it'd be good. And I don't know if there's anybody else on your team that's on this call that we've missed.
Sure. I would like to introduce Cindy Hogan. Cindy is our digital equity program manager, and a lot of you know her. Any question regarding digital equity, any asset inventory, please feel free to copy Cindy in that email, send it to me, or you can do other ways. And I would like to really recognize Karen Ziegler, who's in the call. A huge applaud for her. She's not only our consultant for ACA broadband. Also, I'm proud to call her as my mentor, and also proud to call her as my friend. And she's the reason a lot of the ABDG stuff, the $100 million grant, we are able to push out really quickly because her veteran experience with the compliance with federal agencies and state agencies is impeccable. And really huge applaud to her for her contribution for Arizona broadband expansion. And I'm sorry, Karen, for dragging you out from your retirement all the time. So, but we need you.
Thank you, Sandy.
So Sandy, if you need to go, feel free to go. I'm going to actually put Cindy on the spot here in just a minute and see if there's anything. I know you've got a bunch of listening sessions and stuff coming up. And Karen, I don't know if you have anything that you want to add, but so Sandy, thank you very much for being here today. And again, if you need to go, feel free to drop off. We'd love to have you stay, but if you got to go, you got to go.
Thank you.
Sandy.
I will
Thanks, Sandy.
probably stay here for another 15 minutes, but Karen, if you want to add something on top of that, where we are, if I missed anything as a whole initiative wise, that would be a great help.
Yeah, thanks, Sandy. But the only thing I was just going to offer some opportunities for feedback and participation. Steve, you mentioned the listening sessions. If you go on the ACA website, you'll see under the broadband digital equity, there's a series of listening sessions, roundtable sessions every month that you can register for. There's one tomorrow at 3 o'clock. I have posted that in the chat. There's also listening sessions across the state that the Digital Equity Institute, which is the partner with ACA on this digital equity plan. We've done a series of them already. There's a couple more left on the western part of the state. So the first part of August will be La Paz County, Mojave County, and Yuma County. So if you weren't able to attend one of the listening sessions, there's a link to a survey that the Digital Equity Institute is asking people to complete, whether you're a community anchor institution, nonprofit, local government, even a community member, on your thoughts and feedback on digital equity. Sandeep mentioned the plan as well. So there'll be two plans, a digital equity plan as well as a BEAD infrastructure plan. There'll be 30-day comment periods on both of those plans, and we'll have those posted on the website as well. So lots of opportunities to get involved. If you miss one of the roundtables, like Sandeep said, you're always welcome to reach out to Cindy, myself, and we can capture your feedback, individually as well.
Great. Thanks, Karen. Any questions for Karen? Cindy, you have anything you want to add?
You're on mute, Cindy. Gotcha.
Sounds like they covered it pretty well. I also wanted people to know that we have started tribal roundtables for tribal members. That's been an interesting process. Just really wanting to include them in this whole conversation, and it's going really well.
Good.
Yeah, that's a great point, Cindy. ACA just hired a tribal liaison, Candace Hamas. Is that correct?
Hamana.
Yes, Candace Hamana. She's half Navajo and half Hopi. So this is really a unique initiative, because I don't think any other state organization has a tribal liaison except ADOT. So we are moving forward that direction, that no, we are not going to leave anyone behind when it comes to broadband. So she's going to take an active role to make sure all our tribes are included in this process, and we are covering all the tribal households.
So Karen, Sandy, and Karen, you may know this, that we've been talking about wanting to do at one of our meetings kind of an update on what's happening with the tribes. And so is it possible that we could get her to perhaps come to one of these meetings and kind of just introduce herself and kind of give us an update on what's going on?
Yeah, Steve, I think certainly. Just keep in mind, she just started, 2 weeks ago? So we may want to give her a little bit of time to get up to speed.
Sure.
Because I know her number one goal is to get out into the community. So she is starting her road trip all over the state. But I'm sure we can grab some of her time for one of the upcoming meetings.
That'd be great. Any other questions for Cindy, Karen, or Sandeep? Okay.
Yes.
Well, thank you all.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Somebody has a question.
Yeah. During 2017 alone, at least according to Symantec's Internet Security Threat Report, attacks against IoT devices increased well over 600%. What I'm wondering here is, what measures are taken to address conceivable vulnerabilities in this space, having high speed connectivity and a high likelihood of threat?
No, there was a pause and then we resumed.
Am I audible?
Sandy,
Oh, you did?
I think somebody needs to mute. Sandeep, are you still there?
Yeah. So I think the part of the question is, what's in all this planning and funding, where is there any initiatives regarding cybersecurity?
So the cybersecurity is an integral part of the digital equity planning process. It is one of the threats that are brought up, regularly, and that, Cindy, I'm not sure if you may be able to answer, clearly, but that will be built into the digital equity programs that will be funded through the capacity grant program.
And I believe it's also part of a requirement for BEAD.
Mm-hmm.
That there needs to be cyber planning, cyber security planning. Yes, it's definitely on the radar, and it's really good to have all of this language in legislation right in front of us, and the whole country playing off the same playbook, because all the pieces are so necessary. So this is a real gift to the country, and I'm really hoping we make the most of it. And it seems like we're going to do that. We're getting a lot of responses from people, a lot of input and feedback, and yeah, it's a really interesting effort. And one of the things I say all the time is that yes, there's money coming, and that's wonderful. It's big, it's unprecedented. It's bigger than anything we've seen. But one of the things that is going along with that is we're all having these discussions. I mean, these discussions are happening, and we need to keep them happening, because whatever we do with this money, we need to make this sustainable and long-term. So it's really good to have all these pieces coming up into the public conversation, and groups like this need to keep it up there and keep it present, and keep bringing awareness to our communities about what's really going on, and what's needed in communities that a lot of us don't know. Mm-hmm. So really, really important to keep the conversations going.
And this is Mark on the cybersecurity issue. I have been taking a pretty deep dive in the BEAD preliminary NOFO, and there was just a guide put out the other day. I'll see if I can come up with the link. The link is directly to a PDF, not to a web landing page. So I have the document, but not the link handy. But regarding cybersecurity, there are very specific criteria where the applicants must have NIST compliant framework cybersecurity practices in place, documentable, and those require ongoing threat recognition and evaluation and grading and response plans and maturity models. It's actually quite an extensive set of requirements on all applicants for the BEAD funding. And interestingly, I've only seen it more recently elsewhere on CHIPS Act, but for grants that I've worked on. But there is a supply chain risk management component also requiring quite formal and specialized procedures for how are you getting your parts? How are you, stocking spares? How are you doing multi-source vendors? This, that, the other thing meant not only to deal with the lead times in the supply chain, but the response times to failures in the field. And then there was a question from Chris Johnson in the chat about high-speed internet, what that is, and it's a minimum of 100 download, 20 upload. I don't think I heard anyone answer that.
Okay. Any other questions? So Karen, have you guys had any conversation with Ryan over at Homeland Security, since they're have a lot of responsibility for, well, particularly for the state agencies in terms of cybersecurity, but I know they're working with the Department of Ed, and I'm not sure who else, some, I think, local communities in addressing cybersecurity issues.
Yeah, right now we're working with the governor's office on setting up that state agencies meeting because that's going to be a big part of both plans, the digital equity plan as well as the BEAD plan. So we don't have that on the calendar, but that is a top priority to pull all of those state agencies together to have those discussions.
Great, thank you. Okay, any other questions for Cindy or Karen? I think Sandy may be gone. Any other questions for them? And Nicole, are you still here or am I not seeing you?
I think Nicole had to drop for another meeting.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry that she had to go. So next up on the agenda is to talk a little bit to maybe get some updates. Petra, I don't know if we can put you on the spot a little bit, just what's happening with your ACP grant, and you know, if you're ready to just take a minute to talk about that.
Can you hear me, Steve?
I can.
Oh, good. Well, I sort of lost my picture, but yes, well, thank you for letting me say a few words. We've put together a great team.
Excuse me, Petra, can you just tell people who you are?
Oh,
And
I'm sorry.
where you are, please.
I'm Petra Falcon. I'm the executive director of Promise Arizona. I'm a lifelong Arizonan, and I've been organizing in communities across the state and nationally in very underserved communities on issues like immigration and education and issues like SB 1070. And I've gone all the way to Florida to visit with colleagues there. But most recently, we were awarded an ACP grant, and we are covering South Phoenix, and we're covering Guadalupe, and I'm visiting Yuma. And so we're have put together a great team, and we're putting together our toolkit so that we've started to go out into the community, and certainly in Guadalupe, we've already met with the Guadalupe Partnership Committee and working with those organizations, and we've been visiting schools, and we're going to continue to do that until we try to get as many people as possible inside the broadband world. And we're learning a lot. I'm learning a lot, and certainly these conversations are important. I've been attending some of the listening sessions, and I will continue to do that. And I think we need to really do some more listening sessions here in my own community in South Phoenix and in Guadalupe. But this is such an important venture. I recently was also involved with the light rail project in South Phoenix. We're helping to make sure that the light rail is also going to be one of those vehicles that brings the future to this community and is helpful in transforming underserved communities into communities that thrive and not just survive. So I'm just looking forward to this work, even though I've been organizing for a long time, and I still have some steam so that I can continue to organize. So thank you, Steve, for welcoming me, and Cindy has just been a great resource to Promise Arizona, and I will continue to reach out to as many people as possible so that we can be learners and also share the knowledge that we're getting from all of you that have been in this business a lot longer than I have. So thank you again, Steve, for recognizing my space here, but
Sure.
I'll be back.
Sure. Any questions for Petra before we move on? So one of the other ACP initiatives is Binu. Is that how you pronounce your name? Am I pronouncing it correctly?
Binu, yes, correct.
And you were with CLPC, right? With Chicanos por la Causa, and you guys have an ACP grant too. You want to talk about that quickly?
Actually, no, I'm not a part of that committee. I'm with the Navajo County
Oh, wrong
library.
person.
Yeah, wrong. Yeah.
Sorry.
So yeah, that's okay. But hi, everybody. I'm Binu.
So who was there from CLPC? Or somebody?
CPLC.
CPLC, excuse me.
Hi, yeah, my name's Nubia and I'm with CPLC, and I'm the ACP administrator. And we're really excited to start and to have lots of events. And with me, we also have Eric Martinez. His first day was today, and he is one of our coordinators, and we're excited to also have our second coordinator start next Monday. So we're having some events here in Phoenix, as well as Las Vegas in a few weeks from now. And we're currently working with HUT up north to coordinate some future events as well.
Okay, Thank you, and I apologize, Lupe. Are you on the phone and not on
Yeah,
video?
we're all in the same room, but we have
Oh,
a
there you
wonderful
are.
tool called the Owl. So it captures everybody in this office. So right now, I will give you the top 3 people that last talk. So Eric, if you want to say hi.
Hello, everyone. My name is Eric Martinez. I just started today and I'm excited to be part of the program.
So it'll show like the latest people that talk. So yeah, we have a team. We're kind of getting our team going and already planning events for the next 2 weeks. And then we're gonna getting our August calendar scheduled and starting the kind of the phases here in Arizona, but also moving it concurrently in the other states as well. So we're excited to kind of hit the ground running, and then our great team will be doing the traveling since I'll be going on maternity leave and very like.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you, very soon. So not soon, but maybe 2 more months. Hopefully, Steph's over here, my coworker saying maybe in 1 month. And I'm like, don't jinx me yet. No, we need this baby to stay there till a little bit longer.
So Nubia, I apologize. I got the wrong person that I was supposed to introduce for you guys. So do you want to say anything? You know, Lupe has been great about attending our meetings, but do you want to say anything while you're there?
Who you've been working?
Oh, yeah, sure. So I've been with the company, I've been with CPLC for 13 years. I joined the IMTS department about 2 weeks ago, and I was excited for the initiative and what's happening in the community and just really closing those gaps and just, you know, working in digital inclusion. So yeah, I think, yeah.
And yeah, Nubia has worked with the community with our Parenting Arizona team for many years, as well as our early childhood development program. And then Eric too, he's actually internal as well. And I don't know if you want to share what you did with CPLC and how we're gonna kind of use collaborations.
Yeah, so previously within CPLC, I was a wellness coordinator, so I took care of our employees' health and wellness, try to get everyone healthy, but I'm excited to be more working out in the community and being able to help outside of the organization as well.
Okay. Did I miss anybody who also is working with the ACP community grants? Don't think so. Okay, let me see what else we got on the agenda today. Are there any other announcements? It looks like our library people may not be here today. Megan, I don't know, you don't usually report, but do you want to say anything since Mala and Aaron are not here today? And
I don't have any updates. I just attended to take some notes for Erin since she had to join the AZ Strep board meeting this afternoon. But I really appreciate Sandeep's update, and I'm sure you'll be hearing from Erin and Mala next week. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. So let me see here. I have a good memory, just a little short. So let me get back to my screen here. See if there's anything else we need to to talk about. Aaron's not here. I don't think so. Mark, do you have any announcements that you want to make?
Was on mute. Don't believe so, though. Nicole could confirm expecting NTIA Tribal Round 2, which is the last billion of a $3 billion program, to be announced anytime now. So that's my only particular news, and I don't have, and she may not have an official date for that, but we are expecting Tribal Round 2 to launch momentarily.
Okay. Kirk, are you still online? Kirk, are you there? I take it he's not.
I am. I was just muted to find a mute button.
Do you want to say anything about the IoT conference coming up?
Yes, Sandeep's actually moderating a broadband panel at that Tech Council.
You're kind of fading in and out, Kirk.
Yeah. How about now? Can you hear me now?
Yep.
sorry about that. Sandeep's moderating a broadband panel at the AZ Tech Council Smart City and IoT Conference, September 19th. I put a link in the chat. September 19th at ASU Sky Song starts at 1:30 and goes till 6. Just got confirmation too, Dominic Papa, he's got a lot of DNA and all this, is also going to be keynoting and also on my panel at that same conference from Amazon Web Services. It used to be Arizona Commerce and ASU.
Okay, and we'll be sending out the information about that conference when I send out my updates. Okay, anybody have anything else that they want to announce? Rory, are you still online? Do you have anything that you want to provide update about?
Oops, sorry. No, we're cranking along. We are working with Derek on a project right now and trying to get some internet to some lower income families and finishing up the last of the final mile projects up in Sibique, which is on the Navajo reservation property. We've got some new equipment. We've been launching out 1 gig services out. We're testing and even 2 gig in some areas. That's pretty much it. So keeping a little busy.
Okay. Paul, did you have something? Okay, well, it sounds like we might be done today. Any other announcements?
Just Steve, since Rory mentioned Derek and Suncorder Network, I have had communication with Laura Eder regarding the ATIC board meeting. She wasn't able to make it, but you indicated you thought she perhaps had moved on, but I can confirm that she's still with them.
Yes, I've noticed that. I saw that too, Mark.
And Steve, I just put a quick link in there. We were able to start talking about health and its intersection in this whole broadband space. So the Force for Health is going to kick off a summer learning series called My Healthy Broadband. And so the link is in there. So if anybody wants to continue conversation about why it's so important that data transparency, systems equity matters in this space, we're going to be doing that. It's free. So
okay.
Not that we're all not busy, but we're going to kick that series off.
Okay. Thank you, Lucy.
I need to correct something. And fortunately, somebody corrected me. It's the Apache reservation is where the Sibique tribe is located at. So thank you.
Okay. Anything else anybody has for today? If not, I'm going to stop recording, and then any of you who want to stay online for a little bit and chat, you're welcome to do that. And if that's not of interest, we'll end for today.